In this tutorial, I'm going to demonstrate reverb. I'm going to use two different methods. I'm going to put the reverb on an insert, and I'm going to use a send and return model. So the first, I'm going to use an insert. Let's say I'd like to put reverb on this guitar track. So I would come over to the inserts, and I would open the reverb plugin. I'm going to use the stock plugin Reverb, which comes with Pro Tools. And it defaults to a large haul, which is 4.5 seconds, and that's pretty long for this guitar track. So I'm going to switch it to room, and a small one at that. So we've gone from 4.5 seconds of a large haul to 501 milliseconds of a small room. The next parameter I want to highlight here is the wet-dry mix. 100% wet means we are hearing the guitar completely through the processor and none of the direct sound of the guitar. Dry, on the other hand, is only the direct sound of the guitar. Let's hear what that sounds like. That's the dry signal. I'm going to increase it to all the way wet. And we don't hear any of the dry sound of the guitar. So I think the balance is somewhere in the middle. That sounds pretty good. Now, if we wanted to make it a little bit longer, we could hit the medium setting, or we could adjust the decay dial. We could also increase pre-delay, and this increases the time between the impulse of the sound and the first reflection, and that can make the space sound bigger as well. So now I'm going to demonstrate the send and return method for reverb. So before the advent of Pro Tools and plugins, your studio might have a reverb unit. And yes, you could put it on an insert, but you could only use it on one instrument channel then. But let's say you wanted to send multiple instruments to that one reverb unit. You could do so by sending those instrument channels on a bus to the reverb unit, and then return the signal from the reverb unit in stereo back to the console. And you might say, what does that matter in the days of Pro Tools and inserts? Because I can put a reverb on every insert if I wanted to. While yes, that's true, it's going to use up a lot of CPU power. So to conserve your CPU power, you could use the send and return method. So that's what I'm going to demonstrate now. First, I'm going to minimize this track so we have more space. Okay, so we're going to put reverb on the guitar track again, but instead of opening it on an insert, I'm going to send the guitar on a bus. Now, as you can see, bus 1 is in use. We're using that as a key for a compressor from last class. So I'm going to use bus 3 and 4. And here's my send. I am going to send that input on 0 for the time being. I can vary the level I'm sending, so I can vary the ratio and the mix, but we'll do that later. The next thing I'll need to do is to open a stereo aux input. And I'm going to move this here. I'm going to make it a little bigger just to see. And then on that aux input is where I'm going to open the reverb plugin. And from last time, we found that a medium room sounded pretty good. We are going to leave the mix 100% wet because we'll be able to adjust the mix on the aux channel. I'm going to go to the mix window. I'm going to label this reverb. I have to tell it what input to look for. So I need to tell it to look for bus 3 and 4. Okay. So now the guitar channel is sending on bus 3 and 4 into this aux reverb channel. So let's see what that sounds like. And I can vary the wet dry mix here. That sounds pretty good. Now let's say I also want to put the toms in that same reverb. What I would do is I would send it also bus 3 and 4. Maybe I want a little less on the toms, so I'll do -5. And we hear a little bit of reverb on the toms. Going back to the guitar, you'll notice this button, pre. It lets us select between pre and post. This is important. Generally with reverb, we're going to leave the send on post fade because when we turn on the guitar track, we want the reverb to go away too, thus post fader. But if we put it on pre and we turn down the guitar, we still hear the reverb of the guitar, but no direct sound, which is a little strange. But it could be possibly used as an effect, but generally we leave this post fade. So we only hear the guitar reverb if the guitar is in the mix.